Every morning, when the rest of the world was still wrapped in the quiet of dawn, Marcus Webb loaded his delivery van and set out on the same route he had driven for 6 years. He knew every pothole, every shortcut, every house where the dog would bark, and every mailbox that leaned slightly to the left. But of all the stops on his route, none mattered to him more than 412 Maple Grove Lane, the pale yellow house with the wind chimes on the porch and the old woman who always seemed to be watching for him through the lace curtains. Her name was Eleanor Hutchins, and she was 81 years old. Living alone since her husband passed 4 years ago, Marcus had first noticed her struggling to carry a heavy package up her front steps on a rainy Tuesday in November, and without a second thought, he had jumped out of his van, carried it inside for her, and stayed just long enough to make sure she was all right. That small act had started something neither of them expected. From that day forward, Marcus made it a habit to check on Eleanor every time a package arrived, and even on days when nothing was scheduled for her address, he would slow down as he passed, just to make sure the curtains were open and the lights were on. Eleanor began leaving a small note in her mailbox on delivery days, sometimes asking him to place the parcel on the kitchen table instead of the porch, and sometimes just saying thank you with a little hand-drawn smiley face that made him laugh every single time. Over the months, their brief exchanges grew into something warm and steady. She would offer him a cookie through the screen door, and he would tell her about his daughter's soccer game or his wife's new job, and she would listen with the kind of attention that only people who have lived long enough to understand how precious ordinary moments are can truly give. What Marcus did not tell Eleanor, what he did not tell anyone, was that these visits were costing him. Not in the way one might expect, but in small accumulating ways. He was spending his own money to replace items that got delayed or damaged in transit, because he could not bear the thought of Eleanor waiting on her arthritis, medication, or her specialty tea that helped her sleep. He was using his lunch break to run to the pharmacy, 2 blocks from his route, when her prescription was delayed, paying out of pocket and dropping it off before his afternoon deliveries began. He was clocking in late to his personal time, because he stayed a few extra minutes whenever Eleanor seemed particularly lonely or confused, guiding her through how to call her daughter on the new phone she had been given but could not quite figure out. His supervisor had noticed his slightly longer route times and given him a formal warning. His wife had noticed the dips in their monthly budget and asked quiet, worried questions that he answered with half-truths, because he did not know how to explain it without sounding reckless. And yet Marcus kept going back. He told himself it was just the right thing to do, that anyone would do the same, that it was nothing. But one afternoon in early spring, everything shifted. He knocked on Eleanor's door with a small package, and she did not answer. He knocked again, louder. Still nothing. The curtains were closed, which was unusual for that time of day, and his stomach dropped. He called out her name, tried the door, it was unlocked, and stepped inside to find Eleanor sitting on the kitchen floor, conscious but disoriented, having fallen nearly an hour before and been unable to get up. He called emergency services immediately, stayed with her until the paramedics arrived, held her hand while she was frightened, and called her daughter from the contact list Eleanor had pinned to her refrigerator. The daughter, a woman named Patricia who lived 2 states away, arrived the following morning with red eyes and a voice thick with emotion. She sought Marcus out at his delivery depot, found him loading his van before the morning shift, and stood before him looking like someone who had just been told how close she had come to losing something irreplaceable. She told him that the doctor said another hour on that floor could have been catastrophic for a woman Eleanor's age. She told him that her mother had spoken of him for months, called him her guardian angel, her Tuesday miracle, her proof that the world still had good people in it. And then Patricia did something Marcus had not expected. She had contacted his company's regional manager, written a formal letter of commendation, organized a community fundraiser among Eleanor's neighbors and local businesses, and established a small monthly fund that would help cover Eleanor's in-home care needs going forward. Marcus stood there in the early morning light, not knowing what to say because he had never done any of it to be seen. He had done it because kindness, real kindness, does not calculate the cost before it acts. It simply acts, and trusts that something greater is holding the balance. If this story moved you, please show your support by liking, sharing, and subscribing to our channel, Kindness Corner Stories, where every story is a reminder that goodness still lives in the everyday moments most people walk right past.